money is I have been buying. I've been in these games. If you guys follow Crypto Rain, he is an excellent alpha caller. He's an excellent alpha caller. And I have experienced 5 to 10x's on a lot of these projects and rolled some of those profits into OMI, which is low right now. Now that's just what I'm doing, but this is a perfect example of something recently, right? So Cardano, that was in 2017, around that time, when Raid made a lot of money because he made these calls. And this is just another example of something that literally looked dead and has come back and is just going crazy. So just had to share that with you, just to give you a thought on what could happen with the OMI token.
Awesome. I'm really excited for that. Like we all know what's coming, but it's going to be amazing for once they can start talking about it. Like I feel like, did you guys see the recent Ecomi? They did like an update article, and it was
the monthly update, right?
Yeah, the monthly update, and it was a little. There was like 3 things about OMI, and then all the rest is just VeVe. So there is not a lot to talk about. I mean, the best thing was the community with Discord, as well as Foster being hired for this last month. Other than that, though, nothing else has really changed on the OMI front. And like this is around the EcomiVerse, right? We want to talk about OMI. We want to talk about VeVe. But when they don't give us a lot of features and things and there's no roadmap, it's like we don't know what to talk about for OMI based. So we can only speculate. So I can't wait to that event. And Randy, you're going, is that right?
I would like to. So there's a thing that's called Whale Week that Turtle Golf puts on. I thought it was going to be like every year, but now it's going to be like twice a year or every quarter almost. Where just get a couple high net worth individuals, go to, last time it was in Maine. And then it was just, hey, ask what you want about whether it's blockchain, whether it's Web3, gaming, whatever, just speculative stuff, things that we see on the horizon that a lot of high net worth individuals really just can't, even if they watch, half my videos or a bunch of people's videos, it's really hard. There's so much content out there. It's easy to miss stuff. So just going into taking a deeper look at that. And then it's just a good place to network as well. Just be, oh, hey, I run this company. Oh, I do this company. And it's a lot of fun. Not one person can't know everyone, but with a big enough network, it's kind of like that, 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon, I think that's called. Eventually, 7 degrees. Yeah. So eventually you'll find someone that can know somebody who you need to talk to. And that makes things a lot easier. So we are going to do that in France, or we're hoping to do that in France. But that's going to be a week before, or like the week leading up to the event. So I will likely go, but Rain's thoughts keep ringing in my head like a bell, saying like, oh yeah, $2,000, have great memories, great lifetime, great whatever, but that's also 3 million OMI, and that $2,000 is not really $2,000. It's really $200,000 in a couple of years. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So yeah,
that's a good way of looking at money, is that every dollar you spend, if you invest it well, that could be $10 or $20 worth, right? Yeah. It just gives you a different perspective.
I mean,
Chuck Mike's comment on here.
I love him. So there is something now. I think this is really sensationalized, but you do have. I think it's people in Italy now that have like white lung disease, which is like a variant of what's happened in China, where a lot of people are getting sick, and apparently hospitals are overwhelmed. I don't know if that's true or not, but I feel like it might be used for political stuff. But if this is like true, if this is like a real thing, and you say, hey, to lockdowns again, and then that just might not happen. So I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that.
I don't think there's going to be more lockdowns.
Oh, I hope not.
I wouldn't be surprised if the governments try. So will they be successful? I don't know. I think people were willing the first time to be like, okay, we'll be cautious. I think less willing probably, unless there's like an Ebola level virus that's super contagious.
I remember when my friends are coming back from Africa. I forget what part. Was it Niger or whatever it was? Like they were like fine. They were testing fine, but all like the crews on the aircraft like didn't want to like touch them. They didn't want to like hand them their lunch. Like, hey, your lunch is on the counter over there, because they were working with Ebola, and there's like, oh, all right. They didn't know if they were contagious or not. They were fine. It was all good.
Yeah, Ebola is pretty freaky. but it's not very contagious. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, typically, so my wife, she got her master's in immunotoxicology. Very smart, intelligent woman. And so we talked a lot about that, right? And typically with viruses and things, the more deadly they are, the faster they burn out, right? Like they kill the host faster than it can spread, which is like good and bad, I guess, right? Like if you get it, you're screwed kind of, but like at the same time, it doesn't really have a chance to spread, right? So, yeah, what they're worried about is some sort of alteration in which you have something that somehow is able, like an aerosolized version of something where it can live in the air and it's still highly, very deadly. But to date, knock on wood, that has not happened. So
you should get her on the podcast. Get her to like talk about, like, be like, hey, how would it affect crypto if this happened? What needs to happen? Is like, I'm on vacation and I like touch a monkey and I have like a open hand wound. Wait, like, what do I get?
Dude, that would be funny. That would be so funny. Yeah, my wife would not come on to talk about crypto.
Maybe not crypto.
It's fascinating to have immunology discussions with.
Very much.
Oh,
so.
I would love that.
Yeah,
right. It's so fun. Like I'm just like, here I have a genius about this stuff, so I ask all my random questions. I love things with her. She usually
comes on just for that, and then we'll throw in like a crypto question.
Rain, I saw you answer this question in the comments, but you don't answer it for everyone here.
Yeah. So Edgy was asking a really good question. Rain, you got me into VeVe and bought a Risso on the drop plus Todd, still holding through the pain, never sold. Do you think they can go back to all-time high? I think they'll go back past all-time highs, specifically those two. There are some things that won't probably hit their all-time highs, but those are legends, and they always will be. And so those will be grails forever, right? So they're both Series 1, Batman Black and White, the Rizzo, and the Todd McFarlane. Like, as more people come into VeVe, there's still only the set amount of those. In the future, I can see the price on those doing extremely well. So people selling their Rizzos and their Todds now, I think they're massively going to regret it. But not everything will hit its previous highs. I'm very specific on which things I like. I like first appearances. I like things that have something special, right? And both those definitely have special on them. And I think they'll do exceptionally well.
Electra to the moon.
Electra might be special for different reasons, right? Electra could do really good.
There was this one dude, I went to VCon last year, and he came up to me, and I forget his name, but he had like 123 like Electras. I was like, why? And he's like, well, they're either going to fix her or they're not, and like I'm banking on them fixing her. I was like, all right, yeah, that's a good point. So I'm really hoping they fix her.
If they don't fix her, she was the first really bad model, right? And that is kind of legendary in its own sense. It might be like Napoleon Dynamite. Was that really a good movie? No, it was terrible. But that's part of the beauty of it. Like, it's funny in certain ways, but it's kind of bad at the same time. Like Doctor of Stuff, we hung out recently and watched a movie that was so bad it made it legendary, right? And if it hadn't been so bad, it wouldn't have been legendary.
Was it The Room?
It's Trolls 2.
The room is also terrible, but yeah, Troll 2, it was voted at one point in time the worst movie ever made by IMDb users. It is so bad, but yes, it is so bad that it's good because you accept the fact that it's so bad. And then there was a documentary made about it called The Best Worst Film Ever. It's amazing. But yes, also the room is. That's another cult classic, but yeah, there's some movies out there.
I love that movie. It's horrible, but I love it.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like, Electra was so bad that it might actually have some value down the road, because a lot of the stuff they've come out with really good. And when I saw Electra, I was like, oh, that's terrible. That is bad.
Do you guys know the story behind why Electra is so bad?
No.
It's they designed half of the model like pretty much up to the head, like up to the neck, right? And then that team, for some reason, they left or got fired or something, and they had another team come over and they took over the model halfway through designing it. So when you have one person designed it from the start, from the ground up, and then somebody else designs it halfway through, it's really difficult to work because you don't know how they started that design, everything. So there's basically two different designers that made it. So
I'm surprised they go from the bottom up and they don't work from the head down. It's really interesting.
yeah, that's what I saw a whole article piece on it. So that's what happened though. That's why it's so bad, because someone had to come in and sort of like make do with what was there and try and fix it up. They should have just started again, in my opinion.
I want, we're talking about something that's so bad it's good. I want some of those hero merch where not hero, the Bat Cow merch, where it's like made by, like it has like a Marvel tag on it, or it has something that's they're all messed up. I want some of that merch because that's hysterical. You know where I can get some.
I love that Son of a Dad is quoting some of the line from the movie.
Yeah, the line from the movie. Oh my gosh, guys! If you have not watched Troll 2, next Halloween, I highly recommend you do, and that you go into it knowing that it is going to be terrible, and you will have such an amazing time. I've started an annual Troll 2 watching party, so every year we'll watch either Troll 2 or the documentary about Troll 2, and then another terrible movie. The last movie it's called Rubber, and it's about a serial killer tire that kills people by blowing up their heads. It's the worst and also amazing.
Did you guys ever see the movie The Cube?
I haven't seen that one.
If you guys haven't seen The Cube, it's insane. It's like these people get trapped in this giant cube that has almost like elevator moving rooms, and they're all moving around. And every one of the rooms has like booby traps in it somewhere of some kind. And you've got to like get from one room to another, and you've got to try and get out of the giant cube. It's like a stack of cubes always moving around, and like, you know, people's heads get cut off, and like it's brutal. It's crazy. It's not PG, but it's definitely very interesting. I've never seen a movie like it. I think they did multiple. They did like Cube 2 and maybe Cube 3 after that as well. Sort of like got a cult following, one of those weird, wacky sort of thriller horror movies. Should we talk about the Ryan stuff? We seem to be getting a ton of comments about it.
Yeah, of course people are going to be bringing up that question. I have some thoughts on it, but anyone else want to talk?
Dr. Stuff, you want to start it off?
Yeah. I kind of made a tweet under Sanjay's tweet, kind of responding to someone had asked, they posted some of those racist tweets, which were not good. And I want to be very clear. I do not condone those tweets at all. They're terrible. They shouldn't be there. It's not acceptable, right? That's not how we behave as human beings. Those tweets were done 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. I have not seen tweets, those type of racist tweets in like 2020, 2021, 2022 recently, right? And so for me, although I do not condone that activity, I also feel like there needs to be grace, guys. Like, we have to allow for people to change. And it's just, I mean, I'm not taking, look, if people are angry, that's fine. People, I'm not going to take away from anyone's anger or frustration or hurt feelings of that. Like, that's not the intent. But the concern that I have is to hold people accountable. There's certain things and certain actions that I do think that we have to, like, look, it was 10 years ago, that we still have to hold people accountable for or something, right? But being racist, making all of those comments, but then that changing and not seeing that now, to me, shows that at some point there was a change, right? In how he thought and his actions to who he is now. And that's my thing is the interactions that I've had with Ryan over the last year and a half, 2 years, have been great. I feel like he's a pretty uplifting person. I feel like he doesn't trash talk people. So again, it's not to like, I don't condone those tweets that he had there, but I also look back at like who I was 10 years ago. And I think I'm going to be honest, and I want you guys to be honest with yourselves here. If someone was to do a scrub on your background, look at texts, tweets, messages, conversations, if they could go back and listen to all of that stuff, and then they could present that to your boss at your job, and everyone was calling for your head, like, and you could be like, oh, well, that was 10 years ago. Like, that's not who I am today, right? Like, do you think that that's fair? And for me, I say no. I feel like we have to have that grace to say people can change. and become better. And if we can't do that as a society, we're lost, because then anything and everything that you do, there's no coming back from it ever. And that's not how society should work, in my opinion. So, I mean, look, it's up to VeVe. I'm not going to sit there and say whether they should or shouldn't. Do I think that he should delete those tweets? Yes. I don't understand why he didn't delete those tweets. I mean, I've heard the explanation. I don't agree with that explanation. I think that those should have been erased. Probably she should have started a separate, Twitter handle. So, anyways, those are my thoughts on it.
For those of us that don't
60%
know,
of America was trash talking the current president 2 weeks ago, so I don't think that qualifies as much.
the other stuff. What was his reasoning for leaving the tweets up? I don't know.
I had heard. So maybe I'll take that back. I thought that someone had said somewhere, I heard that he basically was like, I'm trying to show the difference of who I was and who I am today, and looking at that, right? So that they can look back and compare and say, hey, here's someone where he came from and where he is today. And I'm like, I feel like you should just delete those tweets and show who you are today. Like, I don't think but that he might not have said that. So don't take that as gospel. Like, that's just what I had heard. That is hearsay. So there's that.
Thank you, Bill Gardner. Yeah, I don't think any of us, I mean, biologically, none of us, like, we change every 7 years. We're completely different people. So yeah, agreed.
One of my favorite persons that I listened to today, well, like 15 years ago, he was sentenced to 10 years for attempted murder. And that was what he was caught for. He probably had murdered several people. His name's Wes Watson. He's one of the highest paid motivational speakers today. So who he was 15 years ago, probably a murderer, definitely selling loads of drugs, got caught for attempted murder and some other stuff and was sentenced to 10 years. And so this idea, people can change, and I allow them to change. I don't have black and white thinking that says like people can't change. Now, sometimes people don't, and they pretend. A lot of that now people will figure out. So I'm totally content to let Ryan answer for stuff. That's cool, because that furthers the change and embeds the change in him, right? And addressing it, great. He's talking about it and addressing it, perfect. That's what I want to see. And we can have this debate. Like, I don't believe in this cancel culture of shutting all this stuff down. Now, if he said this all 4 months ago and like 100 tweets, super terrible tweets 4 months ago, well, no way he's changed that much in 4 months. So, and him trashing the current U.S. president, that 60% of the U.S. is trashing the current U.S. president. That doesn't mean anything, that he's still the same person, at least in my views. Maybe he is, and he's just hiding it better. But like, one of my favorite motivational speakers I listen to frequently on YouTube and Instagram is Wes Watson. And he was probably murdering people 15 years ago. Is that abhorrent behavior? That's far more abhorrent than being racist, though being racist is pretty bad. I'd have to say murder is higher. And yet he's changed a lot of people's lives.
I guess it depends on who you murder. Like, was he murdering was he murdering like pedophiles, or was he murdering
other drug dealers? So
gangsters, yo.
Competitive drug dealing environment. Let's just
put the hat on.
Other pharmaceutical sales representatives and holders.
So
doesn't quite fit my head.
That's good. On I have two sides of this. I could talk about it forever, but I'll try to size it down for a little bit. I originally, when I was talking about it with Tammy yesterday a little bit, when I was talking, I only saw like the tweets that were made public like a day or two ago. And I didn't see the Arab tweets. And then today I saw that. I was like, oh, okay, that's
same. I saw today as well.
Some of the other ones could kind of be like, oh, it's for a gag. Oh, it's the way some people talk. But then the Arab one, I was like, oh, that's a little bad. This is very bad. And then
I have 50% Middle Eastern blood, so
yeah, so
definitely.
So
don't like
and I understand. Hey, a company has to say face like, hey, this is not a good look. We can't have you be the face, and maybe that's why he took VeVe out of his bio, and that's why he deleted the account. Maybe he might still be working for the company. I don't know if he was necessarily a face. I mean, people knew who he was, but I've seen some people say like, hey, if Ryan's going to be still like the face of this community, I'm not buying VeVe anymore. I'm not doing this. And I don't know how many people those were, but I did see at least one or two people say that. And just thoughts on that is like, okay, well, people are speaking with their wallets, and yeah, you have that, but also, how many times are people going to try to do this and then like get away with it? Okay, right now it's fire Ryan, or I'm not going to buy. We're boycotting VeVe. Next, what is it going to be? Is it going to be fire other people they don't like? Like, where does that end? And then the other end of the spectrum, over the past, like, I haven't had a ton of conversation with Ryan, but maybe over the last 6 months, more and more, and he seemed generally positive. He didn't. Again, I'm pretty brown. He didn't seem to be racist towards me at all. I don't think he really was. I think that language as it evolves, you could say stuff 10, 20 years ago that was not okay, but okayer, and not, generally, either way, the especially that was, really not good. Definitely should have deleted those. I don't know. I also think, we have a First Amendment, and I know people aren't saying like to take that away. They're just saying, hey, you can't talk like this and work for this type of company. Maybe they're right. I don't know. But again, what Dr. Stuff says, like, how many of us have had, been drunk and on Ambien and been texting some bad stuff? Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Randy, Matthew has a really good comment here. I cannot excuse Ryan's tweets, but look at the account that broke the story. His entire Twitter existence is to destroy VeVe. He did not go scouring through 10 years of tweets to help VeVe. And that's true. A lot of fudders have jumped on board.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, you have these people that just want to like see this company fall, and that's I think that's there's a whole lot of that goes into that. Okay, why do you want to see that happen? Do you want to see that happen because you bought in at the top and now you're down, and let's say you listened to other people and now you locked in those losses, and now you're hoping it falls even more because this way, oh, now I wasn't wrong. I wasn't the loser that sold at the bottom waiting for it to go to zero. I sold and saved some of my capital. Or are you just jealous that these people are doing things that you wish you could be doing and you're just not doing because you're not disciplined and you're lazy, and et cetera, et cetera. And saying that, doing great things is possible, and it shows them that it is, but they're not doing it themselves. So I don't know really which way it's going. But yeah, a lot of fudders, a lot of.
Yeah, so I can't say I know Ryan at all, and that would give me a better idea of his current character. I'm more interested in his current character in the last couple of years. That gives me a better beat. Obviously, his stuff from 10 years ago, he had major issues to address, major. Because somebody talking that hateful about lots of cultures, like, they have some major issues going on in their life and some personal development growth to go through. That comes from a place of hate, right? And blaming races and degrading other races means you're in a terrible place. If he's still in that place, that would be very concerning. If he's grown and become a different man, well, then I'm okay with that. But I don't know Ryan to say, so I not my decision to make, and I'm not going to try to form an opinion on someone I don't know.
I want to say one other thing too that I just have not liked, and it's kind of to that point of the people that held the space today, and that were a lot of the people talking, not all of them, right? And I was only in there for a second, but like, those are the people that have been like calling like the VeVe community idiots, and like that VeVe is a scam and all this stuff, and yet they're holding spaces talking about, let's decide as a community what we want to do, for the best of VeVe. And I'm like, wait a second, you're out of VeVe. You're not part of the community. I do wish that someone who was actually in the community and a leader of the community could have held that space, right? And if I could rewind time, I'd have been like, Ryan, go to the space where the people who actually care about the community are the ones leading this discussion, because I'm sorry, sure, you have, everyone can have their opinion. I'm not taking that away. But when you take the leadership position to say, hey, let's have a discussion as a community about what we think should happen, and let Ryan have his thing, it should be led by people who are actually still in the community and who haven't trash talked the community in the last 3 days. Yeah, so that kind of blew me away. And if I was Ryan, I wouldn't have given them that space. The people who are bringing that up, yeah, talk to the people who are in the community, and let's hear that. And again, I'm not taking away from anyone who's not in the community, who doesn't like VeVe. They can still have those feelings. But then to say, as a community, I think VeVe should do this. You're not in VeVe. anymore. You know, like, I mean, look, those are my thoughts. And again, I'm not saying you can't have your thoughts, but to lead the space on that, bit perplexing that the community was like, gave them that pulpit to do that, as opposed to someone who actually is in the community and is looked at the community to provide a fair point. I don't know.
And if there's another kind of con about this, you have any potential employee, like would-be employee, that would have gone and applied for VeVe to be not just the community manager, but now Ryan was the campaign manager, I think. They're not going to apply now. Like, no one's going to want that pressure. Or when you have dozens of people going on calling you a piece of shit, and then calling you just like trying to make sure you get fired. Because again, the account that went through that, you're going through Ryan's tweets from 10 years ago, guarantee you they're doing that with every single person in the community.
Yeah.
No one's going to want this job.
But look at that person's tweets. Like, they are not, like, it just is like the hypocrisy there is just mind-boggling. I'm like, you yourself bringing all this up, or I'm not going to go into it, but man, I've blocked that person, and I rarely block people, but holy crap, I wish I could delete that account, because there are just some people there that are just so freaking toxic that they just are terrible for society. I don't know.
Shall we move on from the Ryan subject and move on to Naruto asked for, sorry to ask, what's your OMI price prediction for next year? All coins are increasing. Randy, you want to take that? I would love to hear your price prediction for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to largely be what they can go and give us. So let's say, you know, phase 1 of VeVeVerse, and you get OMI 2 accessory. And then phase 2 of VeVeVerse, you know, let's say we get those 2 this year, or in 2024. And then, okay, well, how does, you know, IP branded worlds, you know, in VeVeVerse really help? Well, if you have IP branded worlds, more people are buying those particular collectibles to go in those IP branded worlds. More people that have them, the more that you're going to want to buy accessories for them. So I think that really helps. Bronze tickets is also really going to help. So I think these 3 things are going to be not even OMI to NFT, which we may or may not get. I think OMI to gem is more likely. We'll get that first. To burn OMI, to get, I think doing a 20x to get to all-time highs again, 1.2, 1.3 cents. I think that's fairly reasonable in 2024. I think in 2025 we go much, much higher. But I think in 2024, 1.2 cents, again, a 20x is fairly reasonable.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
That's super conservative. Yes.
Rain, tell us of your price prediction, because it sounds like you're going to be higher.
I think it goes over 100x from here. Look, it's
in 2024.
So it's like a rubber band pulling back, and it's been pulling back for a long time. It's in this accumulation period where many, not just myself, but a lot of people are accumulating these prices. The longer it stays down, the farther it springs the other way when it goes. And it's been down for a long time. And so some people are impatient. They see blockchain gaming running, a little bit of AI run, and a few other things like Solana ecosystem and Avalanche gaming tokens. They're just like, oh my gosh, when is OMI going to run? Well, digital collectibles aren't running right now. It's not in the narrative. Right now, the narrative is focused on blockchain gaming and just a few other things, but the narrative shifts. And so when it focuses on digital collectibles, I think digital collectibles is one of the biggest changes that happens in the coming few years, that people grab onto this idea of digital collectibles, and VeVe leads that space. And so, like, the truth is, VeVe and Ecomi doesn't have to make one improvement from here. And when that narrative hits, they will go massive. So anything additional that they do is bonus, but realize they don't have to fix a single thing to go massive. Are you looking at some of the gaming projects and you're like, I've never even heard of this effing project and their website sucks, and they just went 10x. Why? Because the gaming narrative hit. So some people just don't understand the space, and that's okay. You're new. I was new too at one point. And, you know, thankfully I had some time before even getting into crypto, but I've been in crypto for 6 years. And so it's like, I just see these patterns repeat. Like the whole Cardano thing of what was going through like 4 years ago with Cardano is so similar. You have no idea, like the level of FUD, the people digging through. You had influencers much bigger than the anti-VeVe influencers dedicating their channels to hating on Cardano every day. Isn't that so similar to what we're going through today? It's the same thing. And yet Cardano went 200x from the bottom. So can OMI go 100 or 200x from here? It can. Will it? Possibly. Could even go higher. I don't know, but conservatively, I think it goes at least to 5 cents. But I think it'll go much beyond that.
Will that be
But that's in
2025?
2022.
Late 2024.
Cool.
Done. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm
Dr.
happy with
Stump,
that too.
what's your ideas?
Oh, I think it's sorry. I was just laughing at Harris's comment. Cardano is still being funded every day. That's true, right? Like Alex
Again,
Becker.
well,
Alex,
for a long time,
again.
all those influencers, the ones, the haters, they shut up because Cardano
Yeah.
did 200x. And now they're coming back out and showing their faces. Yeah, I told you Cardano sucked. And it's like, what happened to you when it went 200x? Why didn't we hear from you about your hating on Cardano?
I'll say this. The staking mechanism on Cardano is amazing. It's amazing, right? Like it just stays in your wallet and you're just like, you just allocate it to this staking. I mean, like nothing leaves. It's all done, right? So like the risk of something like connecting to a smart contract and getting your funds stolen, they've done a phenomenal job of that, right? So I don't know. My experience so far on Cardano, I've loved Cardano. It's cheaper. But everything's on ETH. But man, do I wish that everything things had started with Cardano? My experience so far, absolutely. I wish that Cardano was ETH and switch that up. But anyways, so price predictions, right? For Wes, I'm gonna say $3 to $5.
He's gonna lose his mind, man. He's gonna explode.
Dude, I love it, dude. He'll never let me forget that. I'm just gonna wear a shirt to the next thing that's
$5 Cardano.
Yeah,
we're getting some fun here. Cardano has no
make 2 of those. I'll wear it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think I don't know about the burn mechanism, and it's so hard to understand what that's going to do to the price. Truly, there he is. There's.
We love you, Wes.
Oh, I love that so much, dude. So yeah, I just don't know about the burn prediction, but yeah, I'm with Rain. I feel like 5 cents is conservative because 100 to 200x, it all depends on what happens with Bitcoin. Because a lot of times there's 2 things. You have the more savvy investors and they look at market cap, right? So as Bitcoin's market cap goes up, then all of these other market caps can go way higher than they have previous cycles, and no one bats an eye because Bitcoin's market cap's so high, right? But then on top of that, then you have the easy access to tokens. And that's where you've got meme coins and things like that. Dogecoin, the reason it shot up as much as it did, first of all, you had one of the most influential people in the entire world talking about it. So there's that, right? But then what that meant is that the retail everyday in person was like, how do I get my hands on Doge, right? And they could go to Robinhood. They could go to easy exchanges that people have access to get it. And so if VeVe or Omi can get on a Coinbase or a Binance, right? One of the easiest, the 2 easiest places to access tokens, it could go bonkers because that's all that has to happen is hit this run in a narrative, and then people are talking about it and people are asking, how do I get my hands on it? Your barber's asking, how do I get my hands on it, right? Then who knows, right? We're in uncharted territory on that token. But yeah, I would definitely say 5 cents by the end of 2024 is definitely not out of the realm of possibility, and potentially much, much higher.
I feel like a butter when I said 1.2 cents. That was the reason I said that is because just 2024, and I think in 2025 we go to 8 to 10 cents. But I feel like you guys are going yo, Randy, that's super, super conservative. Again, that was just in 2024. My prediction, the 2025 goes much higher because that's when the peak is. But this is
the bottom. This is the bottom signal when Randy is saying that the lowest price prediction. Bottom signal found. We've got some really good comments here. I just want to run back to this one here. Tommy Vesper saying he had 3 or 4 Ethereum transactions fail, and they cost money. It's really, really painful. I did it recently as well, and I have been using Cardano the last few days. I've been buying some Cardano tokens from the Cardano ecosystem. I had 0 failed transactions, and the cost per transaction, even now when it's still not bull time, it's still very, very cheap. Whereas Ethereum is already expensive. It's already $15, $20 to do one transaction. And I think for Cardano, it's costing me like $1, maybe $1, maybe $2. So it's already 10 times cheaper. But the thing about this is during the bull run last time, Ethereum hit $500 per gas fee. $500. And sometimes it failed. Sometimes it failed. You spend $1,000 trying to get something to work in a smart contract. That is insane. And if this bull run's bigger than last time, those fees could be even higher. So that makes sense why Cardano long-term could overtake Ethereum, in my opinion, because it's a superior blockchain in just about every possible way.
Yeah, like I remember trying to race to some of these mints, and not just mints, right? So I'm in some VCs, and what happens is these VCs will get an allocation, right? Maybe it's like, okay, we can raise up to 500,000 for this project, right? And it's first come, first serve. And I think you've him, man. First come, first serve. And like there's like a max limit. Maybe you can, allocate like 10 grand, maybe it's 20 grand or something like that, right? So it's like you got to be super fast on that. And the first one, and so you're actually like being like, I want to pay more for my fees. And so in the bull run, there would be times where you pay a ton because you're raising your gas fees to try to be one of the first people to get that allocation in. And then you're still not one of the first people, and they refund you the money, but you don't get that gas fee back. And yeah, there was multiple mints that I did too on NFT projects that I paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars on, and it failed. And you like,
it's painful. It's really painful.
It's so maddening. So yeah, ETH, I love where it comes from, but man, I hate ETH in a lot of ways.
I did the same with Axie Infinity during that time. That's when gas fees were really high, when Axie Infinity was going crazy, and it was costing so much to use the Ethereum blockchain and using the bridge with the Axie Infinity and all that, going back and forth. It was so expensive to mint like one of the little Axies that you could play with in the game. It was hundreds of dollars.
I will share. Somebody brought up that Cornucopias is running, and just a couple of days ago, somebody asked me. They're like, "Oh, what's not running that should run soon?" And I was like, "Cornucopias hasn't broke out yet, and I think it will." And literally went crazy not long after that. More than doubled in price. Buying it now, riskier. Buying it then when it was cheap, like, look, buy low, sell high. Don't buy high, sell low. By the way, you can get this from Jordan's shop, this and many other cool things like these Omi mugs. So support Jordan in doing that. Really cool for him to put some cool shirts together around the EcomiVerse shirts and others. So thank you for doing that, Jordan. And this one, I personally like.
Awesome. Thanks for the shout out, Rain. I actually bought Cornucopias yesterday. So I'm enjoying this 12% pump for today.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I watched a video from I can't remember one of the YouTube Cardano Maxis. I forgot his name, but he basically said to look into the Cardano ecosystem because everything there is undervalued. Like it's very undervalued. Like the top 20 projects make up like less than 1 billion market cap.
Yep.
So
wow.
I just thought I'd jump on a few of those. So I'm happy to get some. I've already got a lot of ADA, but now I've got some of the actual, their tokens in the Cardano ecosystem.
Well, a lot of people are FOMOing into AVAX stuff that is already pumped tremendously. And so I call it loading up on ships that are at port rather than jumping off the dock to chase ships that have already left port. So like the Avalanche Gaming tokens, they've left port. Don't jump off the dock and chase those. What you're looking for is things that are at the port that are currently low. So you can buy low in order to sell high. A lot of people want to chase what's already high and pray that it goes higher, and it usually goes poorly for them. And so like when I talked about cornucopias, like literally just a few days ago before it ran up, I was like, look at this pattern. The pattern looks solid. It's probably going to break to the upside from here. It was currently at port. Now it's running away. Will it probably go higher than this? Yes, it's just went a little over 2x, but it's already a little bit higher in hoping that it'll go even higher than here. It's not quite at port like it was. There are other things that are at port right now. And so like I learned that the hard way. That was some of the lessons I learned over my first 2 years. Even though I kind of knew these from other investing I'd done, I just couldn't get past myself my first year and a half. And then I just watched how the results were. And I was like, shoot, I shouldn't have, because I would sell things that were down to roll into things that had just pumped, only to watch the things that I had sold go massively up and the other things just in time to catch a retracement often.
We do have a comment here. Rain, are you taking profits on Kopi? I'm guessing not yet.
Not yet. Not on Copy. Not yet. If it runs up like 5x or 10x from here, I might take some profits. And yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, because Rain, you have a lot of land too, right? So even if you sold the token, you still have exposure to the project.
Yeah,
Like,
massive amounts of land.
And so, but I think with Cornucopia is like you have Bryson, who's playing the game. He's got so he does Twitch. He streams Twitch. He's a big gamer. Got a large following, and he's playing the racing game right now. So Cornucopia is going to have one of that first actual like visually amazing games to play that's also really fun to play in the racing game, right? They're still building out like a metaverse and things, and they're going to have other games. They have a mining game that they're doing as well. But these guys have just been so methodical, and they basically they were doing about, they called it Copy Cafe, like once a week, where the two CEOs come on to talk about all the developments. They show updates and stuff. They've got an incredible community. So yeah, I'm one of the things that I've been doing this time around is when something pumps pretty significantly, I will sell some of those tokens, and then I'm like, what hasn't pumped, and I'm folding it into that, right? And so, and then I'm also thinking about what are some of the tokens that I think in the bull run are going to be massively sought after, and I think that those are going to be launch pads, just like they were in the last cycle. What happens is these projects, they team up, they pair up with a launch pad because the launch pad has a lot of connections and marketing and things that they can do, right, to get more exposure for that project. And so the biggest launch pads get some awesome projects, and anyone who's able to get allocations in those projects from the launch pad, they can make some significant money, right? So then the value, but to get an allocation, you have to own a certain amount of the token. And depending on how much you own, gets you different allocation amounts, right? That's kind of how they structured it in the past. So I've been buying up some more, like Engine Starter is good. I think Spores Network is massively undervalued. In fact, I was talking to Danny the Bull just like 2 or 3 nights ago, and I was telling him, I'm like, look, I think Spores is undervalued. So then he bought some, and it's just pumped like 50% in the last like 2 days.
Nice.
Right? So
one of my community members in the private Discord is like, sorry guys, I just pumped Spores. I just bought and then bought some more and bought some more. And he's like, the liquidity is pretty low.
It is
low. That's from me, he said. And it was like, how much did you buy? And he didn't answer the question with that yet. But he's like, but that is when something's got that small of a market cap and is really small, it can pump tremendously. If he dumped like 20K in there, that would have done it.
So, Rain, do you think long-term, obviously this is not OMI talk, but do you think long-term Cardano will take over and flip Ethereum just because it's better?
No, I think he's got enough layer 2s building on it that like it'll remain functional enough that I don't know that Cardano flips it. It's got a chance though. Cardano took the slow route to building things right. Remember, Charles Hoskinson helped co-found Ethereum. He was one of the 5 co-founders. And so he took some of his lessons learned and he built Cardano based on that. And so it gets a lot of FUD, but like they took a very smart, methodical approach, better approach than everyone else took. And they architected it all out before they started writing a single line of code, which is how you build solid foundations that don't crumble. And notice it hasn't crumbled. It has outperformed most of the other blockchains out there. And as they really scale it over time, it can do millions of transactions per second. So like it'll probably be like one of the blockchains that survives the test of time. So people selling it right now, it's really low, but not as low as it was. It was down at like 23 cents. And I was like, Cardano should not be 23 cents ever again. But sometimes the pendulum swings too far to the other side. And at 23 cents, I was like, this is too juicy. And what happened? Well, then it doubled from there. And so it's cool. When it doubled from there, I sold some more of my Cardano, rolled that into OMI, which had gone down to like 0.06 cents or whatever crazy low price. And I was like, sweet, like a gift. My Cardano just doubled and this went even cheaper. So I sold more Cardano. And even though I love Cardano is probably not going to see a possible 100x from here. And from especially this price, I think Ecomi's token does. So a lot of people they literally cannot do this. They cannot buy low. And that's okay. Just recognize that. Like it's too emotionally hard when you're brand new to buy low because you almost want to look to the side and get confirmation that it won't keep going lower because you're just scared. And it's okay to be new. Like, just when you accept that about yourself and be like, I'm new, I'm learning how to do this, it actually opens your mind so you can actually get your own crap out of the way and learn how to be good at this. Just understand that at least 85% of people in crypto can't do that, or they won't do that. They won't learn. And that's why there's so much money to be made here. Because if you're following the herd, if you're saying what everyone else is saying, you should be very worried. You have not figured out being a crypto investor yet. In order to be a good crypto, like I talk about, a savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL type level crypto investor, you'll be thinking very differently than what you're hearing most everyone else saying. And if you're saying the same things everyone else is saying, you're probably doing it very wrong. So,
Rain, question. You said I forget what coin it was before. You said I already did a 2x. I don't know if I go into it now.
Kopi, was it?
Yeah, for something like OMI, where it is, you said it could do 100x this next year in 12 months. If it does a 5x, is that still a place where you would buy because you believe it could still do a 20x on top of that?
So it has to do with other opportunities. If everything's up, well, then what's my best opportunity forward? Well, it might be a Comi. So right now, like, why wouldn't I buy cornucopias? Well, I already have a ton of exposure to cornucopias. Is it bad to buy at 2x? No. In fact, Paul Lizzie said it really well. So did someone else talking about the gaming sector. So Paul Lizzie said, where was his comment? He was talking about how it's going to go further, and like the true blockchain gaming run hasn't happened yet. This is just a little precursor, and I think it will get out of the narrative and pull back. But when there are actually some blockchain games that become some of the top played games in the world, like blockchain gaming is going to go way higher than this. Cornucopias will go way higher than this. But I have to look at my opportunity window for the next 6 months. So if it's already gone up some, I think it'll go up more, and then it will probably pull back, and then it will run up. So I'm loading boats that are still at dock, right? And so I have a little mini course on some things that are still at dock, and they still are. And that's what a lot of my money is going into right now, because it's still completely at port, and I don't have to jump off the dock and chase it. Though cornucopias at 2x price isn't bad, but I'm always looking at my opportunity cost. So if OMI's 5x from here, well, if everything else up is up 5x more too, well, then OMI might be my best because it's fairly late in the game. Sometimes, though, there are things that have pulled way back at port that you could roll money into, and there's still a lot of things that have not left port. Like OMI has not left port. In fact, it's come back and parked right next to the port, and it's super juicy. And this is what buying low looks like. And some people literally cannot do it because they want to hear everyone else telling them that what they're doing is smart. And that's never going to be the case when you're buying the bottom. Never, ever, ever. They look back at the charts, they see the really low price, they say, I would have bought there. No, let's be real. You would not have. You're not there yet. You haven't learned to be that kind of savage person that can do your fundamental research, and you can be like, oh, BitBoy or whoever, is fighting on it, whatever major influence is wrong, and here's why. And I get what they're saying, but here's why they don't understand, and I'm buying it anyway. Not that BitBoy's bad on OMI, but I was just trying to, an influencer's name that might be fudding on something.
Rain, can you pick 3 tokens that are still good to buy right now?
2 of them I cover in that course. I will not give them out outside of it because it's not fair to those who paid for it.
Yeah.
But there are 2 projects massively at port. What else is massively at port? Bumper is. It's not at its low, but it's near its lows. And I like Bumper a lot. A lot of people aren't talking about it. One of the ones I talked about recently, Definity. Well, when I talked about it, it's at 1.7 cents. It no longer is. But I actually put Bumper and Definity together. There might be some major overlap there. I'm excited what could come out of that. But let's see what Definity's at. It's DEFX. So
Definity, Bump, and OMI. That's your.
So they're like 3.5x from when I covered them at 1.7 cents. I still like them. Their market cap's fairly low, but it's not completely at port anymore. It was completely at port. Bumper, I would still say, is completely at port, and that's one I'm very bullish on. I love the team behind it. They're super solid. A lot of people aren't talking about DeFi right now or looking at DeFi. That's okay. That narrative will come into focus. So I like that. And cornucopias I just talked about like 4 days ago at being at port, and it is not anymore. I mean, it's not far from port, but it's not right at the dock.
Dr. Stuff, do you have 3 picks?
Well, yeah, I think Spores is still undervalued. I mean, that's a high risk, high reward, right?
Yep.
Because if you look at its all time high, it was like 10 cents, and it's like 001 right now. So that's 100x, right? If it just gets back to all time high, and again, it depends on what happens with Bitcoin and how much money flows into that. Because as people take profits, it historically has flowed into these alts, right? And people are picking that, and then that's when during the bull run, there's so many projects that start to launch. In fact, like there are projects that I invested in over 2 years ago that still haven't launched. They're waiting for the right time. So when the bull run happens, there's projects that are just launching like crazy. So Spores, I think even with this recent pump, like the market cap is still, I mean, it's small there. So I'm like,
it's still at
1.6 million dollar market cap, right? So very, very small. So again, a higher risk though, because but like Rain interviewed the founder like I don't know, it was a couple of years ago or something. It was a while ago.
3 times in the last 2 years. Most recent one was like 8 to 10 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, but the guy is.
I think I've watched it. I think I watched it.
Well connected in the APAC region.
Extremely well connected. One of the best connected crypto people for getting the top games coming out of the Asian markets, right? Korea. He speaks like fluent Vietnamese, I think Korean as well. He might even speak some Mandarin, and fluent English. And he went to school in the US, like a top level business school. So he has all these connections from the Western world and the Eastern world. The perfect team to be running that project. And yet the market cap's at 1.6 million.
Yeah. And they've still been building, right? And these are the narratives. It's funny, guys, any project that's still around, like there are tokens that I thought were dead. And I had a buddy of mine in one of the projects that like has not made, I don't think they've tweeted in like a year. And he's like, I think I'm going to throw just like, $500 into this project, like just as like throw it up for a prayer. And then he looked, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm up like 10x on this thing. And we were like, what? Like, what? That's crazy on stuff, right? Like, and so with Big A, what he's saying, everyone keeps saying when the bull run comes, like this is not the bull run. When I say the bull run, I'm talking it's euphoric and it's like you're checking your MetaMask literally like every 10 minutes because the value just keeps going up and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. And that's when the emotion kicks in and you have to separate that and start being like, I've got to start selling some of my things. So here's one of my plans that I'm doing. Let me talk the other 2 tokens, right? I like OMI is still for me at this buy point. So I just recently bought another 2 million OMI.
Let's go.
Yeah. Like I'm taking profits from other projects that I think I'm like, look, I think that this kind of hit like this top right now. I'm going to sell that, wait for those to go down. And then with some of my other profits, I'm going to buy right back in and at least have the same amount of tokens I had before. And that's panned out relatively well so far. I can't time everything like that. And then right now I'm trying to do some more research on real world assets. And someone had just made a comment on that Perps Dex, Eddie Almeida, Perp Dex, real world asset. Oh, okay. And the Oracle. So yeah, like I am trying to look at like real world asset projects, and Rio is one of them that Danny DeBoll has been talking about. I didn't realize that Rio was a real world asset. But I'm looking at that because I think, and that's more like a buy and a little bit longer term hold that I think it's going to take some time there. But the projects that do that, I'm willing to just park some funds there because once that narrative hits, it's going to go just bananas there. So
I have some Rio.
So real quick, and then I have to go. I had a hard stop here. Just SoCal Omi Homies thing about the selling part. So 2 things that I've done to help my emotions, right, is when everything is going up and I'm going to start selling like at different levels, right? But I'm going to keep 10% as a moon bag of every project that I'm in.
It's a great idea.
And then if it moons, I'm going to sell 90% of my 10%. So then I still have another 10% just in case. And that's going to stop me from like if there's a retracement and then I'm like, oh, I think it's going to go up and then it shoots up again for me, just like loading in more funds onto some of those things that have, like Rain says, like have left port. And I'm going to be just taking some of those profits and just putting them out there, right? So that I'm truly playing with house money, but like not a lot of house money. As the bull run starts hitting, like the returns that you're going to get are going to be massive, and you're going to want to then just be like, I'm taking all the profits and I'm rolling them into this next play and this next play. But like at some point, the music's going to stop, right? And who's going to be left without a chair? And so that's why I am taking some of that money and I'm starting to park it and say, I'm not touching this. And so if everything then goes to zero, so be it. I've made substantial gains here, and I still have moon bags in case I'm wrong. So with that, everyone, I have to go, but I want to say, if you haven't already, subscribe to everyone's channels and smash that like button. Appreciate Jordan setting this up every week. It's awesome. I love that people they look forward to these Mondays, and I enjoy speaking with the fan. But I got to go. I appreciate all of you who are watching from my channel. I highly suggest that you join one of the other channels to finish watching the rest of the show. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Dr. Stuff.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I love it when he's able to make it. I love his reasoned analysis skills are freaking incredible. And he can't talk about what he does for his day job. Let's just say it's really, really, really high level.
Yeah, it's really smart, dude. My three. So I feel like the person that asked this, he's like, just give me the tickers and don't give me any details. So I'm going to follow directions. I'm going to be like, okay, OMI as obviously one, because that's what I'm in. I guess they would be a little more not as high risk as like the super low market cap ones, but I would say ANKR, and then I would say IMX, or maybe MMX. I would say OMI, then I would say ANKR, and then MMX. I think those would be probably my three.
Well, when are you planning to hold your MMX till, Randy?
Well,
Just see what
it's
happens.
contingent on what OMI does.
Yep.
If OMI is still down here in like 4 weeks, like end of the year, I'll have to, I'll take that out and I'll put it in OMI. If it, depending on what, I mean, unless MMX like gets cut in half and it's like, okay, this is, I don't want to really sell at a loss. But I think it would be silly. Even if it goes to like $4, I think it's like $2. So even if it goes to like $5, whatever. At this point, it'd probably be silly to go and not take profit and put it into OMI just because you have a, that's so just because you have
IPO
such
tomorrow. See the comment there?
Our tomorrow, your today. I think that would be good because I don't think VeVe goes to France without having something prepared for OMI. Like they could talk about the soft staking and maybe they could just talk about it, but they're going to want something else. So I think like, again, that expiry, I think you get a little bit more attention on the token and it finally goes to a place where it's not stupid undervalued and it just goes to, it's still pretty undervalued. So that's what we'll do in like 5 weeks.
One of my key indicators on something of like when I get super excited about buying it is literally when the FUD gets so high and I look deeper and the fundamentals are actually still quite solid. So for me, Cardano last cycle, the fundamentals were still quite solid. Just the impatience hit this fever pitch and these people are like, when Cardano, when Coinbase listing, when this, when that. And if it doesn't do this by this date, I'm out. And just the impatience hit this all-time peak. And the FUD was so high and people were looking around and just all FUDding on Cardano together. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy more. And so I get really excited when I get to those moments. And people, like what's funny is just on a show I did earlier this morning, one of the comments was like, they were asking, what are my top picks? And they said, don't talk about OMI. I was like, yeah, why would I want to talk about something when the price is really, really low? We should just look at things where the price is already 5x because that's a good time to buy it. Like literally people can't figure out the system of buying low. They can't because they want market confirmation, because as human beings, we have this principle of psychological consistency that what has been happening is what's going to continue to happen is what we think. And that's why 95% of people get this space all wrong and they do terrible in crypto. That's not just a number that's thrown out. That's what the statistic is, that 95% of people don't do well in crypto. And you take one of the largest asset classes, this transfer of wealth happening, and 95% of people are going to do poorly during it. So what the hell are they doing wrong? And don't do that. Well, part of it is they literally can't buy low. They're going to buy They're going to chase into some stuff like Myria right now is, 0.95 cents. And I think Myria is going to have another leg up. But what's going to happen is a lot of people are buying it now. It's going to have another leg up. And then it will probably, the blockchain gaming narrative will fade out for a little bit. And I think Myria might even run up to 2.5 cents. And then it will probably retrace for a while. So if they buy it right now, they'll watch it go to 2.5 cents. They're like, yes, it's going to go straight to $1. And it's not going to go straight to $1. And it will pull back on them and it will go to half of what the price is now. And they will freak out and they will sell it. And then they think crypto doesn't work. No, it's just they don't know what the hell they're doing. They got in a Lamborghini and they wrapped it around a telephone pole. And then they're complaining about Lamborghinis don't work right. And it's like, you tried to do 70 in a 30 zone and couldn't make the corner happen. Duh. They're just new at this. And they don't come in with a humble approach of how do I learn to be good at this so I can do it right? They just come in and follow what their emotions tell them to do. And that's why they do exactly what 95% of other people do. And they get destroyed because there's people like me that have been thinking about investing for 25 years that counter trade them. That when they're freaking and panicking, I'm buying. And when they're FOMOing in, I'm selling. And it's not like I'm a genius. I just have learned how to do this over time. And anyone can learn how to do this. But most people in like YouTube channels aren't necessarily good at trading. And so there might not be who you want to follow to learn how to do this. But there's lots of books and other things on investing. These principles apply not just in crypto, stocks. Like it's the same principles for success. There's just a little bit tailored approach to how to do it for crypto.
Awesome.
Great.
We've got some comments here by Josh who's saying, are they going to be talking at VeVe more than OMI at the Crypto XR event?
Yeah, they confirmed that though. It'll be centered around VeVe.
Who confirmed that? Because I heard David basically said they'll be talking at both.
Yeah, that was it. That was David that said that.
So you said someone else from VeVe said they will be talking more about VeVe, or?
No, that was David. I think it was either on this stream or
this stream. David, you talked
or
about
Reigns and Doc stream, whichever one it was, that they would be talking more about VeVe. Like they're still obviously going to mention the token. They'll still be talking about it. But let's say they get 90 minutes to speak per day. Let's say like 60 to 70 minutes would be about VeVe, and then the other 20 would be about the token.
Oh, okay.
I'm just estimating there.
Yeah. What I understood from David was sort of like between the lines was like it might be all about OMI, but he's just saying both so that people don't get their hopes up.
I don't think it's going to be all about OMI.
Maybe I'm seeing too much between the lines. Evan says, what you're doing with your OMI profits, let's say 2025, putting in other bags, haven't left the port. I think everything would have left the port by 2025. I don't think there'll be anything down that's going to go up really, unless it's a brand new token that's launched.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of people rolling into other things that they hope go massive, and there will be some brand new tokens, and people will be going crazy, and the fever pitch will be real, and it'll be a good time to be putting it outside of crypto.
Yes, taking back out. Yeah.
So I'm going to buy a ridiculous house. I'm going to buy 7 ridiculous cars, actually about 10. A supercar for every day of the week. There'll be Monday, and it'll have a license plate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that car only gets driven on Monday. And people say that's ridiculous. Yes, they are right. It is absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes you have to show people ridiculousness for people to really start listening. So yes, there'll be some ridiculousness.
Yeah. So Evan's right. Looking at other projects, but OMI is just so cheap and juicy at these prices for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah. Go for it, Randy.
I'll get an actual bed with a big mattress, and then I will get. I'll probably just have one Cybertruck, or maybe another car. I don't know. If I get a house, I'll rent out at least half of it, and then I'll live in the other half. I don't really need a big place. I like living with people. I like living with friends. I like doing that. But I'm a pretty simple man. I won't, like, I'll still eat Taco Bell. Like, I'll eat good food as well, but I'll still go and get cheesy gordita crunches every now and then. Anything crazy. That's really when the charity work really has to start to happen. So maybe going and buying a small place in not Myanmar, over in Madagascar, And then at that point, talking to a couple of my friends, like, hey, either friends that are still serving, friends that are out, like, hey, we start contracting you to do perimeter checks around these land that I'm buying, and then go from there.
Cool. So you're gonna buy some land as well?
Yeah, that's the point. It's going to be a lot where the places are have a lot of endangered species, but in order to buy stuff over there, it has to be minimum of 500,000. So it's got to be like a decent plot of land. Like
there's like hundreds of acres. That's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be.
That'll be fun. Maybe I'll help throw some charity events for that, Randy. That sounds like a really good cause.
That'd be great. Thanks.
It'd be cool if we did like an Omi collab or VeVe Omi collab and get everyone in the fam. Maybe we could get a drop done too on VeVe. Like
I would love that. Yeah.
And
give everyone Omi
shirts. Charity. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I would love that too. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean they've done that before, right? They've done some drops for
Ukraine.
different events. Yeah.
So that's another thing that we haven't really heard about in a while, where David had mentioned, somebody had asked him about, hey, have you heard of venture philanthropy, and would you ever do something like that for VeVe? And he kind of cuts them off saying like, yeah, we already have a charity arm. Like I was like, oh my God. So I really can't wait to see what they're doing for stuff like that. I don't know what it'll be.
I forgot his Mark says around the EcomiVerse vacation timeshare. Nice.
We can do that. We get a timeshare. Cool. Oh, who called me a loser? Who's my new bae of the day?
Was this Nicholas Cater?
That's right. There's always haters. That's funny though. I have never had that thought ever once cross my mind that Randy is anything but like so down to earth, so sincere, amazing person, like the kind of person you just don't meet very often in life. So it's like, yeah,
I think I know
Randy. I'm gonna like this guy forever.
Oh, I think I understand his mindset. It might be because Randy doesn't have any big ambitions of buying a giant mansion and a whole bunch of cars, which is sort of like what Rain and I both want to do. So maybe that's why he thinks like that's. But it's not all about that, right? Material possessions only get you so far, and when you die, you can't take anything with you. Just remember that, guys. Yeah. It's all about what you learn here.
Some of my Pokemon cards back, but if we're talking about like houses and mansions, there's I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Amityville Horror. Any of those movies that it's about. Anyway, the Amityville Horror is based off of a house that's like 15 miles away from me, 20 miles away, and it keeps getting bought and sold every like 4 or 5 years. Like the person who buys it winds up selling it almost immediately, like every couple of years, because it's still a little like creepy and haunted. So I would really like to buy that place. I think that.
But you'd have to sell it, or you just have to make one with the spirits in there.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do. I'd like to see a ghost. I'd like to go and talk to it. Podcast with a ghost.
This is off topic, obviously, and I know this is not a place Rain talks about too much, but I've been watching this guy recently called Darius J. Wright, and he's a guy who since he's 16, he's now in his early 30s. He's been practicing going out of body, OBE.
Oh yeah,
exploring. And I've had two. I've spoken to them on here before, but the two I had, it wasn't fully conscious. But I'm starting to learn about how to do it. Randy, there's actually methods for learning how to go out of body, and you can explore different realms. You can see spirits. So if you were in a haunted house, you could go out of body there and go talk to all these spirits. Say, hey, you guys need to move on. You could go over there somewhere, and you could clear out the house.
If you watch, I think it was the Insidious movies. Like if you do go out of body, someone else can go into your body, and I have my body.
I've been out of body, and I've had those spirits try and get in my body, and they can't without your permission.
Well, I am not going. Like, what if I do that and I'm on a certain type of substance, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine, it's okay, you can do it, and then suddenly I am without a body. It's not happening.
I don't think it's possible that they can ever take over. It's the same as if you let them in. It's the same as those people that channel entities. They channel entities, so they're temporarily letting something in to communicate and talk and stuff, right? But you're ultimately in control of your body forever until you die.
For the first time in my life, in like the next year, my life is about to get super, super good and I am not messing that up. I am not catching a charge. I'm not doing nothing.
Okay. So when you've got everything you want material wise, and you've done some charity work, and you got some spare time, then maybe you can start practicing OBE, going out of body, exploring other universes, because this is just one part of the world, right? Like we think this is everything, material wise, feels like everything, but there's a lot more to it. And I've been to other dimensions, and there's a lot more. This is just like a little. It's a little taste of it, little part of the pie.
I had a dream that we had SpaceX the other day, and it was so real. It was there. So maybe that's just me visiting another timeline or another universe, or maybe that's something that has not yet come to pass, and maybe we do have SpaceX. I don't know.
That would be so cool, man. Imagine, I would love that. What's it called? The Starship. The Starship would be amazing. I would for sure buy that drop. They could make it expensive too, right? People go crazy for Elon Musk, Tesla, and SpaceX. They could charge $120 per Starship, and I think it would probably sell. It would sell out. Yeah.
I mean, people were buying his tequila for like $400, and that was, I mean, I think now they're paying $600 for an empty bottle. So yeah, they would totally pay something that they could take pictures with. I'd love that.
Yeah. So Wes thinks my 7 supercars idea, one for every day of the week, is excessive. Absolutely, that's the point. It is excessive. Really hardly be driving each of the cars, and I'll also have actually a few other cars, because I'll have a daily driver, which will be a truck that will be massively excessive too. Yes.
I would love to be Rain's driver. I would love to go and they'd be like, "Oh, where to today, Mr. Rain?" And then just like speed all the way.
Yeah, I will have a limo for when we go to like fun events, because I will start throwing big parties again, like way bigger than what I threw before. And we'll have a limo that like fits like 14 people, and we'll have a driver, and like, so you guys are both invited, right, to some of my parties.
Woo!
I would need like a van to travel. I guess at that point just take an Uber, because if you're in New York, you're not allowed to drink. Like even if someone else is driving, you're not allowed to drink unless it's like a 9-person vehicle and above. So I remember one time, me and my friends, we got like a Uber X, like, so it was like a 6 or like 9-person. Go drink on the way.
Scott asked a good question here.
Yeah, Jimmy.
So David, when he joined Dr. Stuff and I, he talked about this a little bit. He didn't elaborate all that much on what the expiration was. He talked about how once there's an expiration of a certain date, they'll talk more about the token. I haven't heard as to why that is. Randy might have better alpha than me, or Jordan might. There's
but I can't say anything about
speculation, but I haven't heard good stuff. But what's the speculation even say?
Speculation wise, I just say there's something that they can't talk about, but it is. I think it's expiring in December, so I think this month is the last month, and it lines up with that January event, right? They obviously can talk about stuff in January, so they're going to Crypto XR event. So it's pretty simple. Like logically, they just say, okay, well, obviously January they can start talking about it. So maybe before then we get something. That would be really cool. January 1st, that would be cool.
What's funny is Nicholas Cater doesn't know Randy. He says, Randy, just don't be a millionaire sleeping on someone's couch. No excuses ever again. He totally will be. In fact, he'll come over to my house. I'll be like, don't stay at a freaking hotel. Yes, I know you can afford one. I'm like, stay in the guest room. And that way we can stay up till like 5 a.m. in the morning talking.
Yeah, like I said,
I won't allow you to stay at a hotel, because I'll be like, no, I want you close by so we can just talk the whole night.
Yeah. Do you have a dog I can cuddle with? So we can go.
I do. He's amazing too. So yeah, it's a miniature golden doodle. He is adorable.
Oh wow, that's cute.
Yeah, that's one of the things I feel bad about getting. Like I would love like I'd love like a whole pack of dogs, but if I'm traveling so much, it's really not fair to the dogs. Unless I get like an au pair for like my pets. I just get like a nice little French lady to come in and feed my dogs while I'm away, and keep the house in order. Maybe that'd be. I could do that. But yeah, I don't see what's wrong with going and saving money. So quick story, and I feel like this has merit here. Like 3, 4, it was before I retired the first time I went back to work. I was in the high risk lending business, and I had to move out of one place before I went to another. And I was like, hey, I was with this girl. I was like, hey, can I like, if you have like an extra place, kind of like, I know you're kicking out this renter. Like, when is he being kicked out? Like, I'll sleep on the couch for a month before I take the place. Like, it's fine. And then another girl I was with, like, that's weird. Like, you have money though, right? I was like, yeah. I she's like, well, why wouldn't you get like, we were just talking about finance at the time. I was making a lot, and she's like, well, if you're making this much money, why don't you just get like a 2 or even 3-bedroom apartment? Why don't you buy a house? I was like, well, that's not really going to make me a lot of money very quickly. Like, it might in the long term, houses as they go up, or if I rent it out, but I wouldn't get an apartment, for where it's just me, and I wouldn't get a 2 or 3-bedroom. But I feel like a lot of people have this mindset of like, oh, just because you have the money, that means you can spend it. And I feel like that's a really, really bad way to continuously be broke.
Yeah, it's a good way to, like, a lot of people live to the max of their means or even beyond their means. And so they show a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of money. And I think my first 2 mentors who were super rich ruined me because they drove like really old, cheap vehicles. And so I've actually leaned towards cheap vehicles. I still drive a cheap vehicle today. So I pull up literally in the cheapest car in the parking lot. I'm probably wealthier than most of the people at the events I show up to, asset wise, but like, I'm in the cheapest vehicle, and I don't really care about that. I have learned that sometimes people need to see nicer stuff for them to listen to what you have to say. And that's always astounded me, because I've always listened to people based on how informed their conversation is. But only like 15% of people can see things that way. 85% of people, if they don't see supercars, they don't see other things, they just dismiss you and won't look closer. So I learned that to do those 85%, to get them to open their mind, you have to show them what they expect to see, or they can't open their mind. It's not their fault. They're just wired that way. They're not bad people. They're not dumb people. They just don't realize what they don't know yet. And for them to open their mind to listen to you, show them what they expect to see, if you really have done that well. So I could have done that earlier. I just had this internal debate with myself that's like, just like, vehicles are depreciating assets. Why would you buy something for $90,000 that like 5 years later is going to be worth $15,000? Terrible idea. But if you do buy supercars like $700,000 range, they can be worth 4 years later even more than you paid for them. Here's my dog, so he would love to cuddle with you.
Super cute. Looks fluffy. Rain, what you just said reminded me of this little story I have. I was talking to this young guy at my karate, where I do karate, and he's really into stocks. And I was talking about crypto, and he just, turns off straight. He thinks it's a scam, and he dismissed me completely. But he didn't know that I had a Tesla, and so he was just walking. He's walking out of the karate place, and he just sees me pulling past in the Tesla really slowly. And I just washed it. It was clean. It was sparkly, looking awesome in the sun. And I just saw his face change. And like the look in his face is like, oh, maybe I should start listening to what he's saying. Maybe he knows what he's talking about. And that makes sense, right? Like, when you've got something physical that looks good, you can show people. It does change their mind. Like, next time I saw him, he wanted to know more about crypto. But before that, with me just in the karate dojo, just walking around, I have pretty basic clothing. I don't dress up like crazy or anything. Because until he saw me in my car, I didn't really believe what I said.
Yeah.
When I was researching how to do better courses, because I want to be able to make stuff that people really benefit from, that really changes things. Tai Lopez is the master of like online education, and Tai Lopez, like, he tells a story about his mom called and been like, oh my gosh, you're changing little kids' lives. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, my best friend is a teacher at the school, and the worst student at the school, like the worst. He was bullying everyone. All of a sudden, he's bringing all his books to school. He's getting straight A's. And his teacher's like, what's changed? And he says, well, Tai Lopez says I need to do good in school to get a Lamborghini like he has. And so the youth, they can only understand that. They haven't learned how to distinguish like lame arguments versus good arguments. So if you want to attract the younger people who haven't figured that part of things out, you have to show them what they need to see. Now, unfortunately, you'll attract a lot of the wrong kind of people too. And so like our Discord, like, it's a gated community that it costs $20 a month to be in. So that gate alone has like weeded out a lot of the people that I don't really want in my community. But at some point, if you're showing all these things, you'll bring in some of the wrong type of people, which I'll just then boot them. I don't need their $20 a month, or by then the Discord will be a lot higher for new members joining. And just be like, because I'm looking for people that are open-minded and willing to learn to think the right way. I don't need to do this stuff. I don't need to do YouTube. I don't need to do other things. I enjoy sharing with people these principles that I learned, because it changed my life financially, and this next bull run is going to be quite magnificent too.
Rain, do you want to talk about this at all? Because I don't believe Tai Lopez is a scammer at all. I do believe he didn't know that much about some of the courses he was selling.
Yes. So look at what people are good at and bad at, right? I used to hate Tai Lopez because in 2017, I couldn't go anywhere with seeing his crypto course ads. And he did some crypto course. I think it was like $999. I don't know a single person that took his crypto course and stuck around during the bear market. So was it a scam? No. Was it as good as I would have liked it to see it? I don't know. He clearly didn't set proper expectations with him. And anyway, some people would have fallen out anyway, but I didn't know a single person that took his course and stuck around. So I definitely wasn't going to pay for it. So he is the master at online education, and some of his education, like his 60 principles or whatever, has changed a lot of people's lives. So did he release a crypto product that was probably not as good as it could have been? Absolutely. That's my perspective on it. Does he understand other things? Has he done well at other things? Yes. He's actually, so I really got to know him better this last year as I've watched all his stuff. I really like who he is. I really like what he's done. And his crypto course, probably overly disappointing. He couldn't share what he didn't understand with it. Did he realize that crypto was probably a good place to be and the timing was good to create a crypto course? Yes. Did he understand the principles of how to help people weather a crypto winter and stick around and dollar cost average while things were really low? Probably not. So how could he even explain that if he didn't even understand the 4-year cycle in crypto himself?
Yeah, we
got. I like Tai Lopez a lot, but I didn't for a long time until I really spent the last year learning who he is and how he thinks, and I really like him now.
Wes, just so you know, I've actually done one of Tai Lopez's courses, and it's actually really, really good. He had a ton of really, really good information. It was not a crypto one; it was just a general business development I can't remember what it was.
That's
like
where
100
he's
steps.
exceptional.
I think you've read it, Rain, right? Is it 100 steps or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, 100 steps. I haven't taken it either. I've watched a lot of his free stuff. I would take that course. I would not take a crypto course from Tai Lopez. I'm sorry. But he is an incredible businessman, and he's very open and straightforward with who he is. I love it when I see that with people. He doesn't hide. He even shares some embarrassing stories about himself. I like that type of person that just, he's not hiding who he is and trying to seem at all. He's just very straightforward.
I have seen that there's some big Bitcoin buys at the moment, and so we don't know. I heard there's someone in the Middle East that wants to buy a huge amount of Bitcoin. And
yeah, Max Kaiser reported the Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund has entered Bitcoin, and they want to buy up $500 billion worth. Now, $500 billion,
right, of dollars. That's $500 billion, not market cap, but actual dollars. So that would put Bitcoin past $100,000 by itself.
That would put Bitcoin. I mean, as I think Rain was explaining before, when he was talking about this is a low market cap, but you put in 20,000 into a low market cap coin, it doesn't just go up 20,000; it goes up multiple times that. So if you go into what is Bitcoin's market cap right now, like 700 billion, 800 billion.
Yeah.
You put in almost its entire market cap, and now obviously they're not going to do that in one day. You can't, but you're likely going to see it at 2 trillion at one point, because everyone's going to FOMO in. Like nobody's going to be selling at that point. Like if you have that squeeze and you can't get it from a normal community, you have to start paying miners. The ones that go and mine it, getting it from them directly, paying a higher price point. It's going to be pretty crazy.
The other thing is right now, guys, we are at the lowest amount of Bitcoin on exchanges since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And I think it's around 5% of all of Bitcoin is on exchanges. That's not a lot.
There's a lot of people not willing to sell their holding and very few willing to sell, and it's probably going to put a squeeze on it, and you'll see the price shoot up because
now you have the option. I don't know when this started, but a lot of banks are doing it now. Hey, you have a certain amount of Bitcoin. Now you can borrow against it And like 5-6 years ago,
Yep.
I don't think that was
what
possible anymore.
MicroStrategy's been doing that on the big scale for ages, but you can do have a small amount of Bitcoin. So you never have to sell your Bitcoin. You can actually just borrow against your Bitcoin. And then buy more Bitcoin and use MicroStrategy's.
Yeah, so like, why would you sell the Bitcoin if you could just borrow against it and just end? If let's say if you're in let's say you do that on a business account. Let's say you have an extra $2 million on your balance sheet you're gonna have to pay taxes on. Wait a minute, why don't I just get a loan off of my Bitcoin? It sits on my account as a debt, and then this way it kind of muffles up the profits a little bit, and then you don't have to pay as much taxes. Perfect. Oh, it's so simple. And I feel like more and more people are able to do this and understand this now. So it's, yeah, a lot of fun.
Awesome. I've got to wrap it up now, guys. If you guys can say your last final words to the audience, what do you want to leave them with today?
Yeah. So what I'm excited about is a lot of the people that are here right now are people that stuck around during this bear market. So as long as you were also dollar cost averaging and smart projects that were at port, I think the coming year is going to do exceptionally well for you. Now, it might, it'll really start to change your finances. One bull run, maybe if we have a super cycle, one run is enough to really change your finances. But even 100x, if you put in $10,000 and you get 100x, so $1 million will go a long ways in the Philippines, but not the US or Canada or Europe. And so it's like it really takes 2 bull runs. So strap in. It's going to be a wild ride. Learn as much as you can about becoming a smart investor. And then take profits while you're ahead, and then stick around the following bear market and do this one more time. And I will be shocked if you're learning and growing, becoming a smart investor, if 2 cycles, 2 bull runs that you're well prepared for don't massively change your life forever.
Agreed. As Harvey Dent once said, the night is darkest just before the dawn. I get it. If you're all in on OMI or anything, it's hard. Dr. Stuff talks about this last cycle where he was in a couple things, a bunch of rain stuff started pumping, and his wasn't pumping at all. As long as you're in a good project, it'll have its day. It'll have its day in the sun. I'm down more on OMI than I think anyone else in the project. So if I'm here and I'm chilling and I'm buying more and I'm not worried and I'm 100% okay, that should hopefully give you guys a little bit of confidence. Okay, Randy's not worried. And again, this isn't financial advice. I just don't want people freaking out, and God forbid selling at these prices, just because some people think, oh yeah, OMI's going to 0004, and yeah, Bitcoin's going to go down to 12,000 again. And again, nobody has this crystal ball what's going to happen in the short term, but yeah, show that Tesla.
That's what I want.
But again, I'm accumulating down here. I think I might only get to 180 by next month when. If I can get there, great. If not, I'm fine with 176, and that's cool. But I'll try to get as much as I can before it starts creeping up. That's what
awesome. I'm doing. Well, thanks for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to everyone here, and we'll see you next week.